Hello friends, and welcome to a new chapter of Around the World in 80 Days. I hope you like it and subscribe my channel. Let's go. Phileas Fogg says something he might regret. Phileas Fogg left his house and walked the 575 steps to the Reform Club. He went straight to the dining room and sat down at his usual table. Just outside the dining room was a garden that he liked to look at. Phileas' usual waiter brought him his usual lunch, which, as usual, he finished at precisely 12:47. After lunch, Phileas moved into the great hall to read the papers. He spent much of the day there and then went back into the dining room for his supper. When he finished eating, he sat in the reading room with some other members of the club. At 6:10 he started playing cards with his friends. Among Phileas' friends were Andrew Stewart, an engineer, and Thomas Flanagan, a landowner. John Sullivan and Samuel Valentine were also there. They both owned newspapers. Lastly, there was Ralph Gautier, who worked for the Bank of England. Everyone wanted to hear about the robbery that had taken place at the bank just 3 days ago. The robber had gotten away with a fortune of £55,000. It had been all over the papers. "Shall we get started, gentlemen?" John Sullivan asked. "I'm looking forward to picking up our game of bridge." They discussed who was to deal, and then started playing cards. As each man settled into the game, Thomas Flanagan asked, "Well, Ralph, what do you think about the robbery?" "The bank will certainly lose the money." Andrew Stewart cut in. "On the contrary," Ralph said, "I think we'll be able to catch the robber. We've sent detectives across the country and to the 4 corners of the world. He won't slip through our fingers." "So you know what he looks like, then?" Andrew asked. "He's no regular robber, that's for sure," Ralph replied. "He made off with so much money." "What do you mean he's not a regular robber?" Andrew laughed. "He's a gentleman. At least, that's what the papers are saying," Ralph responded. Ralph told the group that a number of people had seen a well-dressed gentleman in the very room where the money went missing. This had been on the same day that it was stolen. The police were convinced that it was this gentleman who had committed the crime, for no one else had been seen in the room. Ralph also told the men that the bank had offered a reward to the detective who managed to catch the thief. It was a very good reward too, £2,000. "Where do you think he go then, if you've got all men all around the world?" Andrew asked. "Oh, the world is quite big enough to hide one smart fellow," Thomas said. "It used to be," Phileas said as he dealt the cards around the table. "What do you mean?" Andrew asked. "Has the world grown smaller?" "Absolutely," Ralph said. "I agree with Phileas. A man can travel so much faster these days. That is exactly why we're going to catch the thief. We can keep one step ahead of him by having detectives in any corner of the world where he might be hiding." "Ah," Andrew said, "but it's also how the thief could get away." "Perhaps, but that doesn't change the fact that one man can now travel around the world in 3 months," Ralph said. "Actually," Phileas interrupted, "it's just 80 days. "Phileas is right," John said. The paper said it would only take 80 days now that the great railroad in India is complete. He opened up the paper and showed it to his friends. See here. It maps the whole trip out. Each man took his turn looking at the paper. Right there in black and white was a description of how someone could travel around the world in 80 days. Even so, Ralph said, that doesn't account for bad weather, accidents, or any number of things that could throw a man off track. That's all included, Phileas said. What about problems with the railroad or getting lost? Ralph argued. That's included as well. The paper has it all worked out, every possible thing that could go wrong. Every last delay. It takes a mere 80 days to travel right around the world, Phileas said. He put down his cards and said, 2 trumps. I've won this hand. Andrew gathered up the cards, shuffled them, and then dealt. He said, maybe you're right, Phileas, but I still don't believe it can be done. I know it can be done, Phileas replied. Andrew smiled. If that's the case, then how about a bet? I'd wager for £1,000 that it's impossible to go around the world in just 80 days. It's very possible, Phileas insisted. Well, why don't you do it then? Andrew asked. I'd like nothing better, Phileas replied. I will show you myself that I can make it around the world in just 80 days. So you take my wager? Andrew asked. Phileas smiled and said, absolutely, and I've got £20,000 as the bank that I'm willing to risk as well. Come now, Samuel said. Are you both being serious? I am, Andrew shouted. As am I, Phileas said. Very well, Thomas said. We're all here to witness that Phileas Fogg shall attempt to win his bet with Andrew Stuart by travelling around the world in 80 days. Correct, Phileas said. I will make a tour of the world in 80 days or less. The 5 men said together. Very good. Very good, Phileas said. There's a train leaving for Dover at 84:05 tonight. I shall be on it. This very evening? Andrew asked. This very evening, Phileas replied. He took a small calendar out of his pocket and looked at it carefully. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd. I will be back in this room at 8:45 p.m. on Saturday, December 21, or else my money belongs to you. The man signed a piece of paper sealing the wager, as gentlemen do. Phileas remained calm even though he had just bet half his fortune. He took a deep breath and said, Let's have one last round of cards, gentlemen, before I head out. I hope you liked the video and subscribe my channel. See you next time.